Laura Demurtas, welcome to the forum, here on behalf of Club Demurtas, and Sébastien Abis, your colleague, was on one of the panels earlier at the forum. What was Sébastien's voice? What is your voice in this debate? Because the debate was the need for systemic change.
Yes, actually, Sébastien is the director of the CEO of Club Demurtas, and he just wrote a new book, so it was Veut-on nourrir le monde? And he actually used the metaphor of Everest to explain how food security will be so complicated to achieve in those years, and especially until 2050 and 2100. So the argument here is, of course, this 21st century is inadequate because we're going to have a peak in the demographic growth. So we're going to reach between 10, 11 billion people in 2050, so from 2040 and 70. So we're going to need to change our food system, our way to produce, and so we need farmers. And of course, this debate here in Brussels is really important because, as we saw, like the strikes in the previous months, farmer, I think they are just asking to be heard, and they are just asking to find tools to really make this transition well. Because in one side, we have this need of transition and to protect the planet because we don't have a planet B. So we need to change our food system and the way how we product. But then in the other way, we have to give tools to the farmers to do that, and investments, money, laws that are able to make this transition with farmers that are protagonists and not like against.
And of course, this is the criticism that although they are so central to being able to climb Everest, if we're going to use that analogy, that they are not given enough of the innovation, the tools, the funding to support that. They have a perfect storm moment going on at the moment. What was Sébastien's view about how this mountain is to be climbed, how it is to be achieved?
Actually, the metaphor is really simple. So to climb the Everest, you need to prepare. You cannot climb the Everest one day because you choose that. So you have to prepare. And when you arrive at the top of the mountain, so you're going to stay there actually 5-10 minutes because you don't have oxygen. So the metaphor is that we have to climb the Everest, and when we arrive, we have to try to bring with us as much people as possible to arrive again, like in the basic of the mountain. So this is actually the metaphor of the Everest. And the problem is that the geopolitical context that we have today is not really reassuring in that point of view, because actually before the coronavirus, then the war in Ukraine, now the war in the Middle East, and all these movements that they are also here in Europe with the farmers' strikes and all stuff, they make the situation complex. So we have to find a balance between the geopolitical context that we have and the transitions, the ecological transition and the change in the food system. So the game will be really like how many people and how many countries actually, if I have to translate like in the reality, how many countries will have the capability to find solution and to make this transition all together without nationalist politics or this national sentiment. So how to cooperate with everybody to bring everybody down, actually. And
how do we? I mean, what was discussed in the forum? How do we start? Because the reality is we do live in a fragile world. We do know that farmers are saying no farmers, no food. And of course, the other side of this is overconsumption as well.
Yeah.
How do we start with systemic change there?
Actually, the problem is that what also Sébastien said, we always say to consumers that the low price is the good price. But actually, this is not the reality. We have to also, the consumers should be inside the equation of this transition, not just farmers or the planet. So we have to ask also to consumer to change their lifestyle, to change their consumption, and to understand that in Europe we are really lucky about food, because we have maybe the first system around the world in terms of health food and production. We don't use a certain fertilizer, and the problem is that consumers want to go to the supermarket and find the low prices. But the problem is that with that low prices, we cannot still producing as we do in Europe. So with our high standard, that's the problem. And of course, we should start to tax or impose something on the foreign product that do not respect the European standards. Because instead of that, it's going to be really complicated to make consumers understand that they have to consume European product because they have high standard for the environment and for health also. So we have to try, and we can do this through education, of course, and policy, even at school.
And how far did the conversation get with this panel? Because it wasn't just Sébastien, but there was also, a spokesperson from Microsoft, for example,
yes,
thinking about how to effect systemic change.
Actually, the panel was really interesting because it was about the need to change the system. And of course, for example, Microsoft, you have innovation, you have the role of AI, so how we can improve all the tools that we have today, and especially with innovation, of course, because we don't have to forget about that. So we have we are lucky to have like a lot of instruments today that allows us to put in combination all the tools that we have, the traditional one and the new ones, to try to do this transition, the ecological transition. So, and I think, this is my opinion, in the panel, I think there was a common sense, so that we have to save the planet, we have to make the transition, but we also have to take care of farmers, and we have to make understand to consumers that we have to change, because does not planet B, we have to stop to think about the low price as a good price, and we should start to think about Europe as a whole, and especially in terms of agricultural product, that we have one of the highest standard in the world. So I think it should be good to pay also for that.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the forum.
Thank you very much.